Well, welcome everyone. This is Thursday morning. It's Coffee with Joe time at RVN Television, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And I'm Joe Osamendi, your host. But if you watch my program, you know that that's not the most important thing. The most important thing of this show is this young lady I have sitting right next to me. I'm going to introduce you in about 30 seconds. And I also have a special guest that's going to be joining our show today, too. So without anything further, I'd like to introduce you to Amy Cardell. Amy, welcome to Coffee with Joe.
Thanks. Where's the coffee?
Well, I was out there. I gave you a water instead. Where's the coffee? But anyhow, welcome aboard. You're from California. Thank you for joining us right in the studio. And we have a special guest in Karen Elsie. She's from Workcred, and we do an expert show with her, and that's how I was introduced to you. So we're all ready to get started here, and we're talking about something that's so important for people, credentialing and certifications. And you are the Vice President in charge of Strategic Workforce for a company called CompTIA, right?
Right.
And CompTIA stands for Computing Technology Industry Association, right?
It's a mouthful, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had to practice that. So tell us a little bit about CompTIA and what you do and why our audience should be excited about it.
You know, there's a lot of companies that run on technology. Every company seems to be calling themselves a technology company now, from CVS to your doctor's office to really the people you think of in technology, like the big companies. But there's so many important jobs in technology that as a trade association, what we do is look at where are those jobs and how are we going to fill them? Because our companies in our industry and companies who have people who need technology skills in their industry can't find enough people.
Right. So there's actually a labor shortage, correct?
Correct.
And your CompTIA actually deals in education, it deals in training and certifications, right?
Right.
What kind of certifications do you have?
So when you think about the pipeline of people coming into technology jobs, there's a way to know they know what they're doing, and that's a certification. And that's something that someone doesn't need a degree to do. Did you know that, Joe?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So high school kids who go into computer tech classes actually take our certs, and so do folks in community college and workforce training programs. And that is what I call the ticket into tech.
Yeah, actually, I have to amend my answer on that because I did not know that until I was introduced to Karen and Roy Swift from Workcred.
Right.
And that's why I found out how important credentialing was and certifications. And the other thing that's important is the certification, has to be a legitimate certification, correct?
Right, sure.
So we want to go into that for a minute?
Yeah, the interesting thing in our industry is there's so many different vendors, IBM, HP, everybody. CompTIA is different because we cover the whole family. We're the big tent. So our certifications are vendor neutral, and the one everyone has heard of is the A+ certification, and that's the entry-level cert into an IT job. And we have a lot more openings and we have people with those skills. So what we don't have, not only, you said we have a labor shortage, we have a skilled labor shortage.
Okay.
And folks can study that and learn that and get onto a pathway, not just a dead-end job, but really one that can go into tech sales, into data analysis, into cybersecurity, into project management. But really that first step is that certification.
And that's so important too, because we've discussed it, and especially Karen, you and I have discussed this a lot in the past. Is that a lot of people just aren't cut out, let's say, for a 4-year education, or they maybe a major in something that's just not employable, so to speak, philosophy, let's say, or something like that, where they're saddled with debt, and yet they really haven't got a real good career path going. Where with the proper certification, you can cut that time frame down from 4 years plus to an actual more manageable thing. And also a lot of people that are like coming out of the military, what have you, they can take and transfer the skills that they've learned into the private sector a lot easier.
That's right. It's recognized and portable that way. Philosophy majors make great programmers.
Really?
Great cybersecurity people. There's not a lot of jobs for philosophers, but we do find that philosophy students who end up with a wonderful, luxurious degree like that can add a certification and plug in to industry. But you don't have to go that way. You're right. It doesn't need to take 4 years plus a certification. It's that understanding what the job role needs, and then documenting that and showing that to an employer. That's a door opener.
Right, and what's happening is you're transferring skills, not just knowledge, which is important because you really want to have those skills. Do you have anything that you'd like to add, Karen?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, Amy's point about philosophy, I think also applies really well to music majors and cybersecurity, right? We've heard a lot that people who understand patterns also do really well in obtaining some of these other certifications. So we really need people to kind of expand their horizons and see that the certifications that CompTIA offers can be relevant to people in all different kinds of fields, and we know that IT is in every industry.
This is so exciting about that. Now, talk about cybersecurity, because that's something that's on everybody's lips right now. Everybody's afraid of that. So, go into that a little bit.
That's another thing that's so applicable to all of us, thinking about how we control our data, what personal information we share, and then how our systems are protected from the outside and even from the inside can really be a very expensive proposition for companies, right? And so to what Karen said, it's a language.
Right.
It's a pattern. Those computer languages are made by humans, and they're patterns, and they're read by machines. And foreign language majors are also another great source of talent here. You think, gosh, you majored in French, what are you going to do with that? Well, guess what? It's not that far a jump to come to cybersecurity. So that focus and attention we have at a national level, from the president down on cybersecurity, on national security that's related to cybersecurity, company security, individual security, cities, everyone is thinking about this topic, really getting in on that growing field that's well paid, interesting work that can go a lot of different directions. I think there's kind of a misconception that it's a bunch of guys in hoodies in the basement.
Right, exactly.
But this is an occupation we see wide open to so many people, and isn't always you and a computer. It can be you with a team. It's not a solo. It's not a solo sport. It's a team sport.
Okay.
Cybersecurity. So thinking about how we get to that adds other certifications. The A+ I talked about at the beginning, but we also go through with more certifications. For example, Security Plus, to really give that background, and that is the next level ticket into the next level of pathways.
Okay, now how does the certification process work? Can you walk me through it?
When we make a certification, we bring in subject matter experts, people in these job roles that know what it takes to do that job. We break it down into a job task analysis, and employers send their people to give this input because it's so valuable to them to know what's in that catalog.
Right.
Then our experts work with that information and create exam objectives.
Okay.
And then the test is written to those exam objectives, and then of course standardized and checked for bias and made sure that it's fair and issued that way and updated constantly because technology is updating constantly.
Certainly.
And that's where Workcred's team comes in and helps us too, to make sure that we're doing that to the proper standards.
Oh, good. I was going to have you address your affiliation with Workcred for a minute, that you were doing that.
Yes, because they are the experts on certification. So we're part of that family of ANSI accredited certifications that is at the highest standard. And I think your point about which standards can the community trust, well, it's the ones that are most widely accepted, and they're widely accepted for a reason. And CompTIA is in that family because we've been around a long time doing this as a nonprofit, as a trade association for industry.
Oh, good. How did you get involved in this?
So I got involved when I was a college student, work study in the library, answering the phones, and found out there were technology and language questions that came together. And I had studied a foreign language undergraduate, and I got sucked into technology through that. And then when I came to train my teams in technology companies that I was founding and advising, I used CompTIA certification. So I was a longtime fan of CompTIA's, a longtime volunteer at CompTIA's before I came on board on staff on CompTIA 2 years ago.
So you actually walked the talk before you...
Yeah, and I think everyone's a lifelong learner. You can always update your skills.
Right.
And so I've seen our team use it to, say we meet a nice kid who's working as a barista down the street, who's helping our team every day with a beautiful coffee drink, and they're ready for the next step in their lives, and you say to them, hey, have you thought about a career in tech? You've got great customer service skills. And so I've said to them, hey, why don't you try the A+ exam, and if you can pass, you've got a job. And 3 months later, they self-study and they pass, and I've hired that person. So it can be something that, people who want to learn, are curious about technology, and want to get into that career path can start with.
And you said 3 months, right?
Yeah.
So that's a very, very short period of time.
It can be done even faster if you have advanced skills, and you can do it on self-study. Might take a little longer, but that's, if you're working already and doing it on the side, seems to be about what people need.
Okay, and the certifications that you have ISO also, right? ISO and ANSI
Right,
certifications?
those are the standards to which we write our exam. So that's sort of I like to say we're the gold medal flour. Our certification is an ingredient in a lot of people's brownies. If they're growing their tech company, their flavor tech, they use our certification. But the people that tell us our flour is good is ANSI and ISO.
Right. In fact, that's one of my backgrounds, because I was in the ISO 9000 and ISO family, so I'm very familiar with that. One of the things that I think is so important about the credentialing that you get is the proper one, because it's got to be recognized, correct?
Sure.
And that's what gives it its validity. Just like ISO is valid because it's a registrar has to come in every 3 years.
Yeah.
So how long does the certification last for you?
They're refreshed every 3 years at the most.
Okay.
And you're so right about knowing it's the right one. What's interesting is we've set the system up in America that 70% of people are told that they should go to college no matter what, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, only about 25% go. And how do they know what they're doing is valid, right? There's an interesting dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And the system really needs to serve everyone. So that's where these vocational tracks can make a lot of sense, where we have, okay, you had the luxury of going to college and you want to get into tech, we can help you there. But if you didn't go to college, we can help you along the way there. If you want to get in young in high school, we can make you very efficiently into a job. But if you're changing occupation, right now so many people are, as you know, we can help those folks too.
Yeah, especially like when you're talking about the militaries. Because the fact is that there's a lot of skills that when you come out of the military, you don't know how to transform those into the private sector.
I'm a civilian. I read a military resume. It's Greek to me. And understanding, but they have a industry recognized credential, then I can see, okay, that's what they know. And I think a lot of HR departments struggle with that.
Okay. Yeah, that's true, because language is the main thing.
Yeah.
If you can't understand it, they have a tendency
It's
to
a bunch of
overlook it.
abbreviations for military, but they have so many great foundational skills, right? And what I want to help people know is there's an efficient pathway. So many people take a circuitous route and accumulate debt or get frustrated with a training course that doesn't meet their needs, doesn't get them to a job. Let's really think about how we can help people get there faster, because time is not your friend when you're trying to get into a job. The older you get, we all know our bills get bigger.
Right.
It never goes down. So if we can help people skip some of that pain by looking at different ways to get into our trainings, that could be through a community college, it could be through an apprenticeship, it could be through a workforce board, it can be through our own training programs at CompTIA, it can be through an employer that's investing in you. There's a lot of ways to get there from here, but I think people are worried about being ripped off, generally speaking. Did I make the right choice? And sometimes that causes people to do nothing.
Okay, and that's worse than doing
And that's
something.
almost worse than doing something. But if they do the wrong thing and they incur a bunch of debt and don't end up with a job, I feel for them, right? So a good place to look is, what's the U.S. Department of Labor pushing and helping support? What are the trade associations in the industry you're interested in, like CompTIA, helping to support? Because those are employers saying, hey, we're supporting this.
Right.
We're gonna look to that, graduates of these programs.
Absolutely. Karen, can you add a little to that?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to see if Amy would talk a little bit about, CompTIA has some wonderful resources on its website, including information. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the career pathways information and how people can really explore some of the careers that are tied to CompTIA certifications.
Absolutely. If we were at comptia.org and looked at our career pathways, we would see the different categories of jobs and some example people that have started in a pathway and moved through that. So a pathway could be, and the general on-ramp is IT support generalist.
Okay.
So that's someone who's helping troubleshoot problems, could be in person, could be over the phone, could be remote. Might not even be in the office these days,
okay.
right? So there's some of that happening for sure. And that's a person who can be in any type of industry. So if you're interested in food or fashion or wine or travel or medical or chemistry, there is an overlap between IT and any industry. So working in the music industry in IT is an option too, right? You think about all these cool things that kids like, film, different things. There's IT in everything. Wow. So working on supporting the operations of that company is an interesting pathway. And we talk about what entry-level salaries are, how many positions are available. We can step through what the pathway is. And then, oh gosh, you really like computers? Well, we can branch off that, there's no dead ends, and put you further into more technical roles, or, you really like managing projects. We can build on that, or perhaps sales and meeting with people and talking about solutions is something you like. We can talk about that. And then another pathway is exciting for us. We are looking at data analysis. We have so much information coming back from the Internet of Things. Every device is talking to us.
Right.
I don't know if your watch is talking to you right now, but all those things are talking, our thermostats, and different machine controls and different data points in analysis from just sales and such. All that data needs to be analyzed. And someone who likes to see patterns and create reports, that's another career pathway. So if you look at comptia.org, we can really walk you through what those different pathways are. And for some of them too, we've built apprenticeships out that you can follow with an employer and get the training on the job.
Good. We'll talk about apprenticeships. We're going to take a break right now, but when we come back with Amy, we're going to talk about apprenticeships and some more things about CompTIA. Stick around.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Well, welcome back to everyone. This is Coffee with Joe. I'm Joe Osamendi, your host. But again, I must emphasize that it's not the most important thing on this program. The most important thing is the person I have sitting right next to me. And I have a great, great person today. She came from California. She's in our studio in beautiful Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And it's Amy Cardell from CompTIA. Amy, once again, thank you for joining me on Coffee with Joe.
Thanks for the coffee.
Yeah, and the water. Listen, let me go into apprenticeships. I think that's an important thing we want to talk about. Can you address that for me?
Yes, an apprenticeship is a job. It's a trainee job. And so it's combining on-the-job learning plus certifications and a curriculum. And it's a way to earn and learn at the same time. So that's an interesting thing to think about with these tech jobs, And it may include our certifications from CompTIA, which is like A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, but it might also include, depending on what pathway you're doing, certifications from other other vendors, like Microsoft, for example, has certifications around their technology. So CompTIA is a big tent, and our certifications are vendor neutral, but we work with other vendors in our pathways, and you'll see that when you go to comptia.org.
Oh, great. And let's talk about your partnerships. That's important because it kind of segues into the apprenticeships. Who are some of the partners you talk about?
So the partners we work with in the certification space, that you'll see our certifications are tech vendors you've heard of. You'll see IBM, you'll see Microsoft, you'll see HP, you'll see the big names that we work with in our pathways that really point out what we're doing. And our map is our certifications plus those of big vendors. And our partners in the workforce space are a lot of people in a lot of communities that are in community colleges doing workforce development training. Right here in your region, we work with JEVs. They have a great trainee program. They do some training called pre-apprenticeship before you get to be an apprentice with us. And there's things right here with Tech Impact happening. There's partners all across the country, but in your area in Philadelphia, there's sure a lot going on.
Really? But actually, you're talking about the whole country has these things going around, right?
Yeah, we have them everywhere. And we're a global organization, so we're not just US based, but today we're talking, I think from this center outward, there's just something to find everywhere.
Oh, that's fantastic. Are there any upcoming events that my viewers should know about with CompTIA?
So the week after Veterans Day is National Apprenticeship Week, so we'll be talking a lot about apprenticeship there. You can go to apprenticeship.gov to learn more about apprenticeship.
Okay.
And we have information all year round. I think you'll see virtual events happening this month for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And there's a lot of jobs in cybersecurity that are being talked about right now. So we have more information on webinars all the time. You can follow us on probably the best place is LinkedIn to get information. We're always pushing information out. And if you missed an event, we record it, we put it up there too.
Oh, great. Fantastic. What costs are involved in getting certified?
So the cost is mostly your time. We're going to see that people need to study. Each certification takes a certain number of hours. I think, if you were working on it, one every 3 to 6 months is reasonable. And we can do that with different ways. You could take it at a community college at a very low cost, but you'd have to get to that community college or work with them, and then you buy the certification. They have academic pricing, so that's just a few $100s depending on the certification.
Okay.
And we also have self-paced online learning that you can do for a few $1,000s at your discretion and time, and we work with a lot of partners who deliver that commercially too. So,
Well, now that's exciting, because now you're not talking about tens of thousands of dollars of debt you might have to accrue.
no.
And again, 4 or 5 years of your time. This is going to be condensed into a lot smaller time period, and you can get right into the workforce,
Yeah,
right?
get you on that job and get you learning. And there's a lot of workforce agencies that are looking to scholarship and help people through. So if you need more support, there's scholarships available from different organizations like the ones I was just talking about.
Oh, fantastic, good. How about you, Karen? Can you add something to our conversation?
Absolutely. So, Amy, one of the things that I think people who are interested in being certified are always concerned about is how do they know that the certification is recognized by employers? And, obviously CompTIA has done a lot of work. So can you talk a little bit about employer recognition and, how a person knows that when they get this certification, it's going to matter, because that is really critical as we move forward and people try to think about what their careers are going to be.
That's so true, because it starts with a job, and if it won't get you a job,
Right.
why did you do it, right?
Exactly,
It's
sure.
not an academic exercise here. This is a real practical step most of the time. Well, I think the thing to realize is we've studied that like crazy, because of course it matters to industry. How do we help get from there to here? And we talked about how certs are built with quality and tested and ANSI and ISO certified. But the thing that really points out the value to us is that when we study, if you have a certification, does it work? It does. And you don't need to take our word for it. There's third-party studies about that. And the fact that we're so broadly used across different high schools, community colleges, universities, and in industry is a flywheel that's spinning, and just hop on, because you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can join with us. And employers who are looking to hire these roles are searching for those. More and more job applications go into automatic filtering systems. There's a system that is looking at that with machine learning. It's a computer looking at that too. And so those certifications are something that a lot of employers are just searching on. So it helps you open that door. It's the next best thing to having work experience. Let's get that work experience with the certification, and then move up the ladder.
Well, that's really important. And what's interesting is what Karen pointed out, and you pointed out too. If you major in something like the liberal arts, where literally you have a path of, I don't want to say nowhere, but where do you go? And you can take and piggyback that with a certification that actually makes your education work better.
Layering technology under your skill set, no matter what industry you're interested in or what your major is so valuable. Because think about all the things technology does. It lets you leverage your skills and reach a broader audience. And everyone's value is tied to how many people they can reach, and that's what technology does.
Yeah, because technology it's here to stay.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. Everything is changing and getting, and if you don't have those skills, you are kind of on the outside looking in.
For sure. And I think, I should bust a myth.
Okay.
You don't have to be great at math and science, by the
Really?
way. No. I took calculus and did all that stuff in high school and college. Never used it.
Okay.
Yeah. There are people who do in our field, for sure. But most people don't ever use that stuff. It's, it's like learning how to play the piano. It's good for your brain.
Right.
And it definitely helps you see patterns and, understand. But there's people at the tip of the sword, writing that code and using a lot of heavy math. But most of us are applying it, not writing that math. So don't worry if you're not heavy on math and science.
I dodged a bullet then because I could barely balance my checkbook. I still have a checkbook. That's how old I am. Exactly. So that's so important. Where do you see certifications going in the next decade? Let's say.
As we see the challenges of the four-year degree system, really, I think the pandemic really lit that up too. Gosh, everyone's looking at money differently and the cost and.
Right.
What is the world going to look like? And we've shifted even more toward digitalization. And what is the value? Obviously, it's a wonderful thing to develop your mind. Learning the piano is a wonderful thing too. It's a luxury. And having the ability to find a pathway into work it doesn't require a 4-year degree is probably only going to grow in importance after we come out of this economic
Sure.
challenge, right? And because we have such high demand on the tech side for hiring, the demand is staying there. So I think there's kind of the perfect storm for workforce through certifications more. And we know that this train isn't stopping. There's more shift towards not only the digital side, but there's more people looking for a meaningful job where they have good benefits, they have the ability to work remotely. People are thinking about pandemic proofing, God forbid there's another pandemic,
Right.
pandemic proofing their career path. What can they do that's flexible and adds value? So I think the future is very bright in this field, and we know that technology breeds more technology.
Sure. Right.
So, we used to have one app on our phone, now we have an app for apps.
Right,
It's just
yeah.
going to keep going. So I think we're not going to have our jobs replaced by robots. We're going to be shaping these robots in these fields, and it's a way to create and add value that's interesting for people.
Oh, that's great. I think you pointed out a really good point about institutes of higher education, because once the pandemic hit, people were staying at home with a lot more distractions and stuff like that. But it also showed people that why am I paying to go to a dorm and stuff like that when I'm getting the same education when I'm in here?
Yeah, there has to be a lot of value there to spend that much money, doesn't there?
Right, exactly. And yet the colleges were charging the same amount of money.
Yeah, for remote classes,
Yeah, for
that was
remote
kind of a
classes,
rip-off.
I couldn't understand
Yeah,
that.
that was kind of funny.
That made me do a double take,
Yeah, I guess they still had their expenses, the professors and the administration, and their costs didn't stop in their defense. But I think every parent writing a tuition check said, "What? You're living at home and I'm still paying the same."
Right, exactly. It didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, so as you see it now, the certifications are only going to get better and bigger. That it's an industry that's going to be expanding and exploding, actually,
Yeah.
as we get more technologically oriented. Correct?
And as we look for an efficient solution, other countries have, we think about Europe, they have a great vocational training system. They track 70% of their folks into pathways with certifications. And, we have just started to kind of figure that out, that we leave people kind of hanging. If you're going to college, it's a pretty clear pathway, but if you're going to track straight over into many applied, important jobs that we count on, from the trades to applied sciences to computers to health, like all those things are tracked best through apprenticeships and best through certifications. And this pathway is so efficient. If you think about time to earning, which is what every parent's thinking about their kid on the payroll, right?
Right, exactly, yeah.
And everyone who wants to, buy their first house or start a family is thinking about that. And as a country, if we think about that, what's the smooth way to help folks start their lives and be financially independent? It looks a lot like certification pathways.
Wow. Can you add to that, Karen?
Yeah, let me just jump in about kind of another trend that I think we're seeing with certifications, and that is, we're seeing that there are so many different types of credentials that are appearing on the marketplace. And one of the things we're thinking about a lot is the combination of different types of credentials. So I think we're going to also see more embedded certifications into 2- and 4-year programs, and into training programs, and into apprenticeship programs. So apprenticeship programs won't just end with the typical structure of the apprenticeship, but like CompTIAs, it will end with one or multiple industry certifications. I think you'll start to see at colleges and universities the same thing, that certifications will be embedded in different types of programs as a way to provide students that third-party validation that they have achieved certain competencies, combined with some of the academic, maybe some of the employability skills that employers are saying they want. So I think as we look to the future, we really want to think about how all these different types of credentials relate to each other, and what are the differences, and how can they be complementary.
Great, that's fantastic. We're at a point of our program right now where I'm going to have you look into this camera right here and tell people how they can reach you and who should call you, okay?
Absolutely. And I think that's a great point that Karen made too, to wrap. The credential can be part of a degree,
Right.
or it can lead to a degree later. It's not exclusive. There's not just
No.
one answer here. A lot of employers do tuition reimbursement.
Sure.
Why not go to college on your employer's dime?
Boy, that is a really good point.
An
excellent point, in fact.
Some
So there's
people
just so many advantages to the proper certification. You can't list them all.
Yeah, if you get into that employer that'll take care of you, that really makes a big difference.
Yeah, it certainly does.
So to learn more, you can come to comptia.org and you'll find lots of information there. We share our research, we share our pathways onto careers, and we talk about how to get started in a career in tech. And if you're an employer, we'll talk to you there too. So it's comptia.org.
Amy Cardell, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
The half hour went so fast.
It always does, doesn't it?
Yes, and I'm going to have you back in the next year so we can talk on different changes as we unravel from this pandemic, et cetera. And we'll talk about some maybe new certifications that are coming out.
New certifications are coming and lots of ways to help people get into jobs as we come out of this pandemic.
Oh, that's fantastic. And Karen, as usual, thank you for presenting me with such a great guest here. Because it was wonderful.
Thank you for having me. It was another great conversation, Joe.
Oh, my pleasure. And all of you, if you're thinking about changing jobs, if you're looking at children that are looking for different careers, et cetera, go to CompTIA. Or even look at Workcred. As you know, we have an affiliation between Workcred and my expert series on morning coffee. And I thank you for joining me with Coffee with Joe. I hope you learned something today. And take care and have a great weekend.